Hey guys, it's Mark from The Abstract once again. In our last lesson, we went over triads and their common functions. Now we're going to take it a step further and go over chords, in particular, 7th chords. 7th chords are all over popular music, especially in hip-hop, R&B, rock, you name it, you see 7th chords. There are different types of 7th chords, and they all sound different. No matter what key they're in, hopefully at one point you'll be able to identify the different types of 7th chords there are in existence. Let's go over the major ones, the most popular ones. Major 7th, dominant 7th, minor 7th, half diminished 7th, and diminished 7th. These are the ones that you're going to see the most. There are other types of 7th chords out there. If you're really interested to find out, you can contact me. But for now, we'll focus on the main 5. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a region, create an empty MIDI region by right-clicking. And I'm going to extend it a little bit further. I'm going to go into it, into the piano roll. And I'm going to create my first note on C3. That tends to be a sweet spot. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So a 7th chord, a major 7th chord in particular, is made up of 3 different types of intervals in relation to the root. Whereas triads consisted of 2 intervals combined to make a triad, 7th chords contain 3 intervals in relationship to its root. 7th chords contain, or major 7th chords contain, a major 3rd, a perfect 5th, and a major 7th interval, all from the root. So at this point, you should know how many steps each of these intervals are. A major 3rd is 4 steps, and that will take us up to E. Forgot to copy it. And it also consists of a perfect 5th, which is 7 steps away. So if we count 7, that would take us to G. I'm going to go ahead and copy this note to G. And a major 7th interval is 11 steps away from its root. So we can go ahead and count up 11 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Boom. Oh. And this is what a major 7th chord will sound like. It's a very open, happy chord. You hear it all over R&B and hip-hop and soul music. It's one of my favorite chords there is. But let's talk about how we could change a major 7th chord into a dominant 7th chord. It's a very simple thing. I'm going to go ahead and copy this region down. So there's one small difference between a dominant 7th chord and a major 7th chord, and that is the 7th itself, the interval of the 7th. A major 7th chord had a major 7th interval in it. But a dominant 7th chord has a minor 7th chord in it. So it has a major 3rd, which we already have, a perfect 5th, but instead of the major 7, it has the minor 7. So we bring this down one simple step. And you'll hear the difference. Let's compare it to major. Dominant one more time. So you can tell that there's more of a pull. There's more tension in the dominant 7th chord. It wants to go somewhere more than the major 7th does. So now let's talk about minor 7th chords. I'm going to go ahead and bring this down. So there's very small differences between a dominant 7th chord and a minor 7th chord. We already have most of the intervals in place. A minor seventh chord has a perfect fifth, which we already have. It has the minor third, so we're going to go ahead and bring this down a minor second or a half step down to create the minor third as opposed to a major third. And it already has the minor seventh from the previous example in place. So let's play the dominant one more time so you can get a refresher. This is the dominant seventh chord. Now we're turning it to a minor seventh chord. And this is what we have. Sounds a little bit different, a little edgier. So let's take it a step further and make it a half diminished seventh chord. So just to throw it in there, minor seventh chord contains a minor third, a perfect fifth, and a minor seventh. A half diminished seventh chord, very similar to what we already have. There's very few differences. It contains a minor third, it contains a minor seventh, but it does not contain a perfect fifth. When we reach the half diminished chords, we have to change the fifth to make it a diminished fifth. So what we do is we lower the fifth, the G, one step. And instead of hearing this sonority in the minor seventh, you'll hear this. It's a little sadder, it's a little edgier, there's more pull associated to it, it has more tension. And an even more tense chord, an edgier chord than a half diminished seventh chord, is a diminished seventh chord. Very few differences between half diminished and diminished. The only thing we're going to have to do is make the minor seventh technically a major sixth interval. The cool thing about diminished is every interval in a diminished chord is a minor third. Between the root and the third, it's a minor third. Between the third and the fifth, it's a minor third. And between the fifth and the seventh, it's a minor third. So a good way to get a fully diminished seventh chord is to simply count a minor third from every step in the scale. So if we were just building this from scratch, I'll mute these, we would count a minor third up from C, it would give us E flat. We would then count up a minor third from E flat, it would give us G flat. If we count up a minor third from there, we put on A. So it's just 3 steps from each spot in the chord will give you a fully diminished seventh chord. Here's the difference between half diminished and fully diminished. It's even sadder. So let's go to the keyboard real quick and I'll show you how to play these different types of chords. So we're going to start on C3. And we're going to build a major seventh chord. First thing we need to do is identify a major third. Then we need a perfect fifth, C to G. And now we need a major seventh, which is 11 steps up from the root. You can also think about it in reverse, since there are only 12 chromatic notes, 12 steps in music, 12 pitches. If you already moved up 11 steps, you can think of it in reverse. You can move down 1 step from C and you'll still have a major seventh. And if we play all these intervals together, it'll sound like that. Very happy major seventh chord. Now, to make it a dominant, we maintain a major triad, but instead of the major seventh, we lower it to a minor seventh, to B flat in this case. So, from there, if we wanted to make a dominant, a minor seventh chord, we would keep everything in place other than the third itself. Minor seventh needs to have a minor third, not a major third, which is what we have right now. So we change the E to E flat, and it'll sound like this. And then from there, if we wanted to make it a half diminished, all we do is change the fifth. We move the fifth from G to G flat. minor third, tritone, minor seventh. And if we wanted to take it a step further, all we would have to do to get a fully diminished seventh chord is lower the seventh by one step. There you have it. So real quick, major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, half diminished 7th, fully diminished 7th. And those are the different types of 7th chords. If you remember the common relationships and the intervals that are maintained in these 7th chords, you can translate this to any key. So definitely work on that on your own time, and stay tuned for the next lesson.